Thank you very much, Michelin. So yeah, she has preempted my introduction by saying I'm here in the capacity now as a wetland ecologist for National Parks and Wildlife Service. But before that, I did work for 15 years in a regional management structure. So I was a conservation ranger for 5 years, and for 10 years, the most recent 10 years, was district conservation officer for Meath, Dublin. And one of the last jobs I did as a conservation ranger in Cavan was I met up with Christina Cassidy. Is that right? And she just wanted to show me the wetlands here in Ballybay and the vision she had for a wetlands centre at Ballybay. And we stood beside the old farmyard there and we walked around the 85 acres of farmland. And you know, I'd give her advice I could give her about how we could manage the site and what we could do. And I left and I said, well, good luck with that. I mean, I just thought she was ahead of her time. I thought, I can't really, I just, you know, with I couldn't see where she's going to get the resources. I'm not sure she knew herself, but anyway, she was an inspired individual, and so here we are today. It really is a fantastic place. And to my shame, I haven't been back until now. So there was a few events, and I just never got around to it. Anyway, so that's that. So yeah, Gurley Bog, a great example of collaboration and cooperation, and in the spirit of that, we felt obliged to have a double act. So that's why there's myself and the rest. And there's actually at least 3 other people in the audience could have stood up here and give this talk as well, or we could have 5 people, I suppose, but we limited a wee bit. So I'm going to talk initially a bit of background, put Gurley Bog in context, maybe of our broader peatland policies these days, and then Loretta's going to take over and talk a wee bit more about the collaboration and the community engagement side of things. So I'll fire off. And who was, you already mentioned the poetry, so this is Seamus Senior, or Nobel laureate poet, so I'm trying to say this is a poem stone, I call it, and he kindly gave us permission before his death, actually, so I'm delighted with that, a direct involvement with Seamus Senior. So, quickly, Gurley Bog is a natural heritage area. It was one of 75 NHAs which were designated in 2003 as part of our obligations to peatland conservation. We already had at that stage the 53 special areas of conservation, which most people would have heard of. But the European Commission came back to us, having been badgered, I think, by people like the Irish Peatlands Conservation Council. I think Peter here is wryly smiling there, I think so. If you need details, so anyway, we were obliged to find more bogland sites, raised bog sites. It was decided that we didn't actually have a complete representation of our bogs, raised bogs in the country, so we designated these further 75. And Gurley Bog is one of those. It's actually, so it's 75 is a lot, but it's probably, I would say, it's just a wee bit more important in ecological terms, because when we're providing our commitments under the Habitats Directive, we'll have to designate any annexed habitat. We'll have to take into account the range of the habitat. We just can't designate a particular area which is representative of the resource. We'll have to take into account the range. We'll have to, the criteria are exactly the range, the area, the structure and the function of the habitat to ensure its protection into the future. So Gurley Bog, as you can see there, is right at the very eastern range of the raised bog habitat in Ireland. So it's got a little bit of a special value in that sense. The other slide there I'm showing shows you Gurley Bog. I'll have to go out here and point it. So it's Gurley. And this is Jamestown Bog. So that's another natural heritage area. But as of now, I suppose, or as of the NHA review process which the government carried out last year, it was carried out by RPS consultants with assistance from ourselves and the research branch of National Parks and Wildlife Service. We have completely reconfigured these 75, or we've reconfigured the NHA network of raised bog sites. So Gurley Bog will be retained as a Category 1 bog. The criteria we used to assess it didn't only take in ecology and habitat value, it also took in social and economic issues, and those related around a particular problem of turf cutting in some of these sites. So just there's so much turf cutting, it was never ever going to be feasible to stop the cutting and therefore protect the bog. So we've reconfigured that network. We now have 36 of the original 75 NHA bogs are still with us as Category 1 bogs. They will probably become SACs sometime in the future. The others have been categorised now as Category 2 bogs, and they're likely, and we have to do this through a legal format. We don't quite know what that is yet, but they will be delisted in the near future. It has to be done quite soon because it's all part of our national peatland strategy. Those documents, by the way, are available on our website, and if you go into the peatland section in the front page. So Jamestown is a good example. There are good two great juxtapositions, those two bogs. Gurley Bog, when we arrived in 2003, or when it was designated, there wasn't any cut and turf there, so it was great. We can do something here. Jamestown Bog, there was hundreds of people still cutting turf, and I'm smiling at a colleague down there. We were told to get out of Gurley Bog on uncertain times on quite a few occasions, or Jamestown Bog, I should say. So that probably gives you, it's a bit of a microcosm of the bog issue across the country before you there. So down to the Gurley Bog itself, and here's one of the many aerial viewpoints that we take on a regular basis. We fly over, well at the minute we fly over the bogs once every week at least, but as part of our obligation to report to the European Commission on our habitats and the Habitats Directive, we fly at least once every 3 years to take account of the 6-year reporting cycle. So there's one of the pictures we took in the early days of Gurley Bog, and I suppose for anybody that's coming from another country maybe, and you see that, you say, well, that doesn't look like much of a bog really. I mean, in fairness, if you're going to choose a bog, Gurley Bog doesn't look like a good candidate. Because number one, it's not an intact, complete unit. You're not looking at thousands or hundreds of acres of unimpacted mire or bogland. Gurley Bog has had everything thrown at it in the last 200 or 300 years. So it's got drains dug into it, there's even a line of trees along the middle of it. You can see the culture property there. That's 32 hectares, was planted up even before the 1900s. The old Drewstown estate had planted it at that stage with trees, probably broadleaves in them days. So it really is a mishmash, but nonetheless, it was an NHA, and it has other aspects to it, I suppose, which are equally as important as a few contributors have already said today, but community engagement and getting the community involved. It's got a great community interaction, and Maurice was going to talk about that. And indeed, it always had an old walkway, or at least in the last 20 years ago or something, there was an old walkway right around the bog. So I just wanted to use that slide to also point out some of the partners that are involved in Gurley Bog. You can see Quilcha, that's the 32 hectares they own. That's all been clear-felled, that's part of the Life project, I'll mention that very soon. The Irish Peatlands Conservation Council, they have 10 or 15 acres, I don't know the details there, it's not important. Native Woodland Trust, they own another 10 or 15 acres, and the arrow was exactly pointing at a green field, so they bought some green ground as well, because obviously they want to plant up native woodlands, and we wouldn't allow them to plant on even Rees bog or indeed good cutover bog. So, and then the Department of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, which National Parks and Wildlife Service belong to, we own probably 100 acres altogether at this stage. And you can see one of the fields there again is a green field. That's there's an orchard in there, and we're hoping to do some more work with that. And then basically throughout the bog we own properties. It would be a very busy map, the term Peter has used, if I put in exactly where the Department of Arts and Heritage own. And then finally, private, probably still third, maybe more than that, of the bog is owned by private landowners. And as far as we can tell, all of them are very enthusiastic about the bog and the protection of it. So it's a real success story in those terms. So just a very quick potted history of the bog, I suppose, in terms, probably mostly in terms of our contribution in the National Parks and Wildlife Service. In the winter of 2005, literally over the Christmas period, a time when civil servants generally don't be at their desks very much, and they certainly don't be out looking at bogs. So two contractors come in and reopened a lot of the drains. You can see them very obviously here. This is a 2005 aerial photograph. You can see the white lines. So the drains were always there as old historic drains, and they would be those drains you see in many bogs where they're filled with sphagnum, and they look very innocuous, but these contractors come in, dug them down to like 4 or 5 feet deep, at least a metre, or stick to the imperial units, 2-3 feet wide, and they really started to have an impact on the hydrology of the bog. It's I think it's a point worth pointing, and this is Dr. Ray Flynn from Queen's University has reminded me many times about this. Even an old drain, which is sphagnum filled and looks, so it's not functioning, actually they do function. So they were functioning very poorly probably until these contractors got in and dug them comprehensively. Their plan, we think, was to extract turf for horticultural purposes, but and they didn't own any of it at all. They said they did, but they didn't. So it was just there. They happened to spec it out and decided, well, nobody's looking. Let's get stuck in here. Anyway, the good news is that by some, I'll have to call it just fantastic detective work by a colleague, Annette Lynch down here, literally walked around the doors and the houses of the area and eventually tracked down the people who did it. Now, it wasn't a local person. There was one from Kildare and another man maybe lived 10 miles away. So we did carry out our normal law enforcement protocol, interviewed them, all that sort of stuff, and recommended a prosecution. But the Chief State Solicitor's Office wouldn't run with that because no one had actually seen them directly. Even though they admitted to doing it, no one had actually, I suppose it's like a murder. You could say you murdered somebody, but unless there's proof, circumstantial evidence sometimes isn't enough. So anyway, so that didn't proceed, but we did get a ministerial direction. It was John Gormley was the minister at the time. The Chief State Solicitor's Office did draw up a ministerial direction to restore the drains, and I've a great file. I have the letter we got from their solicitors. It was 5 A4 pages long, explaining why they weren't responsible, they didn't do it, and they wouldn't be taking responsibility. And this was like a scar in their character. They were accusing them of this. And the last line was, but nonetheless, we'll restore the bog. we'll dam the drain. So that's a legal way of approaching things, obviously. So there you have it. One of the best days of my career as an ecologist was standing beside 15-ton back actor with, I think those are 6-foot wide tracks, and a very humbling experience it was for a machine like that, I'm sure, but a very worthy one for Gurley Bog. So there you go. It was done to almost to perfection. The dams were filled in, the drains were filled in very well, and the proof these days is in the pudding. That tree I show in the picture there, when I arrived in the bog in 2005, 4 or 5 say, was alive and well. It was a living green pine, Scots pine, recolonized, from the adjacent forestry, and it was a very healthy tree. So if you go out to Gurley Bog today, this is the very height of the high bog itself, and that tree, as you can see, is dead as a doornail. And the line of trees alongside it, all of those trees on the high, flat part of the bog are dead now also. Just bear with me while I check. Okay, so the silver line, because these contractors come in, dug the drains, nobody phoned us, nobody complained about it, because we got them back in to block the drains, we kind of thought, well, hold on, there's an opportunity here to do a bit more. So we did do a bit more. We blocked a few more drains, and then when the IPCC bought their property, we blocked some of their drains as well. So the silver lining was, 2 silver linings actually. One was, I've mentioned already, the drains, the pre-existing old drains were functioning to some extent, albeit poorly, but still were functioning. But because the drains were dug and deepened, because we now have them dammed, effectively watertight, the site is now much more hydrologically intact. And then also the fact that we kind of went back in there and did a bit more work with, in the expectation nobody's going to complain about it in the round, we were able to do more drain blocking. So, coming to a conclusion in my section, Gurley, running parallel to this process, it's sort of this issue of the drains and trying to put Gurley Bog into some sort of decent shape. We had, in 2006, some local people came to myself and Michelle Williams from Mead Tourism, which is part of Mead County Council at the time, asking could they redevelop the old walkway and make it bigger and better. And I had thought, well, Michelle had money. This was just when away. Yeah, the Celtic Tiger was still purring a wee bit there, so there was money available at their end of the year budget. So I said, yeah, I have no problem with it whatsoever. Let's do it. And so we designed some, took the panels, we put in the new walkway, put in some stonework, opened up areas which had completely grown over, and it's now a 6-kilometre loop walk, because I haven't checked the panels and said that. And so again, that was the start of the collaboration, albeit with semi-state or fully state agencies. So it was actually a great success. In fact, it's fair to say it was a victim of its own success. We now have annually the problem of the walkways. They're just used so much that the deep peak that they're on, it's not suitable for frequent traffic and intense amenity use. So we have this problem of finding money each year or every few years to upgrade the path. So I'm just about to finish off here. I'm just introducing the real collaboration, which is dealing with the people, the community. I took every year the National Trails Day in October 2009. I think that's an incredible number of people to come to a bog. There was 40 or 50 people that day. We all had a good day. This is just, I think, probably one of the first people I met on the bog, walk, as it were, and walking along. So I great success. And so this is my final slide. And I suppose a very important partner in all this was Culture, who decided that Gurleyville was such a success that they would choose it as one of their demonstration sites for their LIFE project, which is, I think it's only another year to go. As coincidence would have it, they're actually launching their LIFE project today in Scohaboy in County Tipperary. Tipperary, I think. So I'm sure we could have doubled the audience here today, but half of them are down in Scohaboy at the LIFE. But that's been they have now, and you can see there, I wanted to show this slide because you can see how clearing all of those conifer trees, blocking all of the old drains and damming has worked really well there. It's like a paddy field there of sorts, or a checkerboard of little bog pools, and they now have also a 1 kilometre bog bridge going through that site. So just to end my part of Gurleyville and contribution to it, and hand you over to the rest of it.